And we'll, yeah, we're live on Facebook now, mate, so we might be able to do it. We've got, what do we got, 102 people on here live, which is awesome.
Oh, wow.
So obviously, guys, our guest today, a little bit different to a cricket player, a cricket coach. We just thought it'd be really cool and fun to get Cos on and obviously teach us a magic trick. But I think there's also probably some lessons within what you do, Cos. I think no matter what you do, you know, if you want to be a high performer and achieve, there's sort of a similar process to that. So I wouldn't mind, before we get into the trick, if you don't mind, just telling us a little bit about your background, obviously how you got into magic, and then maybe, you know, sort of how hard you work and things like that, how much you rehearse and train and stuff like that, what your preparation looks like for a show.
Yeah, of course. So first off, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very excited. Even if we have to do it via a Zoom and you know the internet. For those of you who don't know, I'm a professional magician and illusionist or escape artist. I got interested in magic when I was 12 years old, and I started off in an interesting manner. I was a very shy kid, very introverted, and had low self-esteem because I didn't learn to read until I was 12 years old, and a very late learner. And this was all compounded by the fact that my mother was, or she actually still is, a school principal. So here I was at school, this kid who can't read, and, you know, we tried everything to engage me. I was one of those kids that basically, eventually I'd given up. I was over it. And, you know, my mum would try to get me to read, and I would be disinterested. And so they ended up taking me to the optometrist. I thought maybe I couldn't see properly. They realized it wasn't my eyes. And I thought maybe it's my hearing. I can't hear properly. It wasn't my hearing. And so everything checked out. So my mother takes me to my local library, where, of course, is the last place a kid who can't read wants to be. And I'm just there. I don't want to be there. And I'm looking through books with pictures, Nick, because I can't read. And I come across this beautiful book called the Encyclopedia of Magic, and it has these gorgeous magic posters, which are created back in the late 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. And these pictures look like comic books. They're hand illustrated. They're gorgeous. I actually have quite a few of them around here in my office. And so now I'm looking at this picture, and my mother from across the library thinks, yes, he's got a book opened. Because usually the book's shut, and I'm just sitting there with my head down. And she comes over, and she asks me what I'm looking at. And there's this picture of a very famous escape artist called Houdini. Houdini, I asked my mother, I didn't know at 12 years old who he was. And she explained that he could escape from jail cells, and this guy jumped off bridges. And I said to my mum, okay, so he's a superhero. And she said, yeah, but he wasn't make-believe, he was real. And people really thought this gentleman called Harry Houdini would dematerialize or melt through locks and chains and jail cells. And I thought, okay, this is awesome. So we take the book home, and my mother reads these stories to me about this great magician, this great escape artist, Houdini, which is interesting. But in the back of the book, it has magic tricks. And the magic tricks are very complicated. They're designed for adults, not for a child. So together, my mother and I would read the tricks, and it would say things like, you know, take a pack of cards, put it in your left hand, and it would tell you where to put your fingers, and you'd have to look at the little hand illustration. And then it would say, you know, put your left little pinky on the back of the pack of cards. So I'd look at the picture, and then I'd have to physically apply my hands. And that was the key. Physically being tangible, using my fingers allowed me to understand what I was reading, as opposed to just listening to a story. So it's very tactile.
Yeah.
And through that process, I learned some magic tricks. The key is that in order to learn the tricks, I had to learn to read. And so I learned my first trick, which was making a coin disappear, which I'll show you guys later on. I made a coin disappear for my father, who's a structural engineer. And to me, my father was a genius. He made bridges and buildings stand up using mathematics. So I make this coin vanish, and my dad says to me, how did you do it? And all of a sudden, I can do something that my father cannot.
Indeed.
And now all of a sudden I'm obsessed with magic. But the thing about it was I learned to read by learning these magic tricks, and it built up my confidence. So I no longer was I that shy, introverted little boy. I had this skill at 12 years old that nobody else had. So my magic didn't come about because I thought it was really cool to learn tricks, or I saw a magician on TV. I simply wanted to read. That happened. My reading improved very, very quickly. My confidence improved, and I turned this hobby into a passion. I kind of just, like any sport, I just kept at it. Yeah. And the thing about magic is there's no schools. You've got to teach yourself. So I had to be very diligent. I had to be very disciplined to teach myself. And I did that through reading books. There was no YouTube. There was no Google. There was no Zoom. So you'd physically get a book, you'd read it. And this kind of, this self-teaching process all fed into the fact that it helped me with schooling. Because of course, reading is linked to writing, spelling. So that's how I started.
And from there, like when you first discovered it and first got into it, how long did it take you to turn that into a profession? When was your first paid gig?
Well, I actually started doing paid gigs very early on. That's only because I would charge my family to come and watch the shows. So I remember doing honestly doing cousins' birthday parties for like $5. I remember doing bar mitzvahs. I went to the old retirement villages and they gave me $20, and I would, my dad would drive me there and I'd set up the show for the old retirement villages. I basically did free shows. My first paying gigs properly were when I was about 17 years old. And so that's like 5 years after I had really started practicing my craft, winning competitions, entering Australian championships. And so when I was about 17, so 5 years later is when I don't know if I was really making a living, but I started getting paid for it.
Yeah. And in terms of your preparation, like it sounds like magic just consumed your life. So it wouldn't have been work for you or effort for you. But how much preparation goes into now, say, when you put on one of your big shows?
Yeah, okay. So to give you some context, so let's say a big national tour, an Australian tour. An Australian tour will consist of maybe anywhere between, for me, 10 to 20 different performances. So you do a major, so you do Melbourne, you do Sydney, you do Adelaide, you do Perth, and so on. It takes 2 semi-trailers. One is full of magic equipment, one is full of lighting equipment. And to prep for that, I start planning the show physically a year before we even start.
Yeah, right.
Designing the tricks, the illusions, coming up with the costumes and the lighting and the sound, and then the choreography, and then there's rehearsals. Rehearsals take 2 months minimum to prep and practice everything. I mean, some of the things you also need to understand, like any sport, you're building upon your skills.
Yeah.
So I know I first learned how to pick handcuffs when I was like 17. I learned how to get out of a straitjacket when I was 18. So now when I do a straitjacket that involves me hanging upside down in handcuffs, it's like layer upon layer. Yeah. So you're building on those skills. So if I had to start from scratch, you're talking literally 15 years to get to that point. But each escape takes about 6 months of prep, physical prep, mental prep, to put it all together.
Yeah, unreal, mate. That's a lot of prep, isn't it? And I think there's some good lessons, as I said at the start, that cricketers on here can apply to their preparation, and how much dedication it takes. So, righto, we might get into this trick, mate. What do you got for us? And then, if you don't mind, once we've finished, if we might just open it up for some Q&A at the end.
Yeah, of course, that would be great. So this is I was thinking about what kind of trick could I do through the video screen. So I thought I'll teach you a trick that might require a little bit of dexterity. I don't know. I don't quite know, obviously, what level people are at or what. So I'll teach. I'll just teach it to you. I'll show you and then I'll teach it to you. Okay. So to begin, I have a little prediction here, which I'll keep on the table the entire time. You can see that there. I won't change it. It'll stay there. So I wrote down something here. That's my prediction.
Yep.
Stay in full view. I want to show you that all the cards are completely different. So it's a completely unique pack of playing cards. There are 52 different cards in a pack, but we'll give them a quick little shuffle. You just mix them up, just like that. Okay, now, Nick, if you could ask someone, there's 52 cards in a pack, so I need a number between 1 and 52.
Yep. Who wants to put a number in the chat box and I'll pick it? Let's go. Do I tell you the number?
Yeah, you can tell me the number.
We'll go 32.
32. Okay, so you saw that all the cards were different, and you saw that I shuffled the cards. I'm now going to count down 32 cards. Might be here for a bit of time, but just here we go. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. We said 32, correct? Do we want to change our mind, or are we happy with 32?
We're all happy?
We're all happy? Yep.
1 no, but mostly yeses.
Okay. So 30, 32.
Yep.
I'm going to put that just here. Now you need to understand, remember all the cards were different. All the cards here are different.
Yep.
Now we could have had any number called out, correct?
Yep.
And the cards were shuffled and mixed. The card that we stopped on is the 4 of diamonds. And my prediction was the 4 of diamonds.
We.
There we go. So it's a pretty simple trick. The secret or the method to the trick. Okay.
What the hell? What? That's crazy. Wow.
Are they ready? Are they interested in learning the trick?
Yeah, who's ready? Who's got a deck of cards? Do you need a piece of just cards? Yeah, there's lots of yeses rolling in. Do I need a...
You need a deck of cards too?
I'm going to take this one because I'm going to do it too.
Perfect.
All right, I've got a deck of cards.
This trick's quite simple, but it will let you understand some really interesting fundamentals about magic. But I don't want people to just think because the trick is simple, it means it's not baffling or it's not fooling. We'll learn very soon that it's all about showmanship and presentation. And my words and what I say is really important because it reinforces the impossibility. So one of the things I learned as a little kid, as a boy, as a teenager, when I learned magic, when I first started magic, I hated speaking, but magic forced me to speak clearly, and it taught me about confidence. And you'll learn not just the technique or the dexterity to the trick, but you'll understand the nuances of why I say what I say and how that makes all the difference to the trick. But first we'll go through the technique. Okay, so you use a normal pack of cards. That's not a problem. You now pull out a card, any card that you want that you're going to what we call force on the audience, meaning that's the card that the audience is going to choose. In my case, I made it the 4 of diamonds, but it doesn't matter what it is. It could be the 3 of spades, it could be the king of diamonds, it could be whatever card you want. So everyone needs to pull out a card now. It could be the 6, could be the 7, whatever you want. So pull out one card. Okay, so what you do now, and I should have told you this earlier, you on a piece of paper, you basically write down your prediction. Now, this is where it gets interesting. It doesn't have to be a piece of paper. It could be, you could have, for example, I've got over here another playing card from another pack. If you don't have 2 packs, that's fine. You don't need that. So I've placed it on a piece of paper as my prediction, okay? And I keep it here in full view. That's important, okay? If you don't want to use a prediction, I'll explain to you later what you can actually do with it. You can just basically call out the card as if you've read their minds, for example. So my prediction is here. Now, the card I want to force is going to sit on top of the pack, okay? Now, for simple purposes, to explain it, I'm going to use a different backed card. So it sits on top, okay? So now you can tell that that's where my card is. So everyone places the card on top. Now you show the audience that the cards are all different because they really are different. Now what you're going to do is you're going to perform a shuffle, which is called the Overhand Shuffle. So what you're doing, I'm going to lean forward here. In essence, what you're doing here is you're sliding off the top card into your left hand, okay? You're sliding off the top card into your left hand. And then you're sliding the next card over, and then the next one over, and so on, and so on. And that's a shuffle. That's what a shuffle is. So if I do it again, take the top card. As I grab it with my left thumb, I'm pulling the card into my left hand. You can see it there. And then I grab the next card along and along, and then you build up, slowly you build up momentum. And that's just an overhand shuffle. Beautiful. But you've noticed something really interesting has happened, guys. The top card has moved to the bottom. And that's important. That top card
has to be on the bottom.
Has to be on the bottom. If you don't want to do the shuffle, you can start with that force card on the bottom. But I think the shuffle makes the effect more baffling. This is what I'm talking about, little nuances that make the trick more extraordinary. Okay, so we've moved the top card to the bottom. Now, we ask for a random number between 1 and 52. Why 1 and 52? Because there's 52 cards in a pack. The card is on the bottom. I'm going to perform a move called the glide. The glide looks like this. As I turn my wrist, I'm sliding back the bottom card. Just slightly back. So you can see here, the card comes back a little bit. Just a bit. You can see the gap here. It's coming back a little bit. But it's done with my hand down. Not so you can see it's poking out the back, but just with my wrist a little bit like that. So if I show you the expose view, you can see it there. Hopefully you can see that. So now all I'm doing is I'm counting down 32 cards in this case. Let's just say it's 10 cards. And I'm pulling out 10 cards. So that's 1, 2, but remember it's done like this. Yep, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's say the number was 10. When you hit the number that they've chosen, 10, 11, 32, whatever it is, that's when you pull that card into position. Now, what's cool is that you can actually have them change their mind at the last minute. So if someone says, I don't want 32, I want 33 or 34, you can keep going until you get to that number. Okay, remember the wrist is like that. Okay, so then you get to their number and you pull into position their card and you place it on the side. Now, to reinforce the impossibility, you show again all the cards are different. And you say, okay, so what's happened now is we've put that card into position. And you say to the audience, you had a free choice. The cards were all different. They were shuffled. You could have chosen any number. And yet somehow my card matches the prediction.
My prediction there. That's awesome.
So a couple of little interesting things here. You want to be able to reinforce the fact that all the cards are different. That's important. You want to be doing that move. That move there is called it's called the glide. The reason why it's called the glide is because you're gliding the card back on the bottom. You're gliding it back. And that move happens just here. You want to make sure that you don't show it from this angle because otherwise you can see the card. You want to be careful on your angles. And very, very simple in terms of technique, just counting down until you hit that exact card. If you don't have a prediction on the table, what you can do is you can get to that card and place it on the table and you can say to the audience, you had a free choice of any card, any number, you could have stopped on any card, have a look at it, they have a look at it, and then you say to them, okay, I'm going to try and figure out what card you have, and then you pretend to read their mind, and you can say, okay, so what I would do in this particular situation, I would really start to act it out and milk it out. I wouldn't just say, oh, you've got the 4 of diamonds. I'd start to say, I want you to think of the color of the card. And they'd say, oh, okay, I'm thinking of it. And then you would say, using your best acting, there's 2 choices. There's red cards, there's black cards. And then I'd say, oh, yeah, you say, okay, just think about the color. Start to spell the color out loud in your mind, R starts with the letter R. It's red. Good. If it's a red card, it has to be a heart or a diamond. Think about, it's a diamond. Great. If it's now is it a number card or a picture card? Just think about which one it is. It's a number card. All of this helps to build the effect as opposed to just saying it's a 4 of diamonds. You want to disguise the method or the trick as much as possible with the acting and the presentation around it. So the technique is important, but the acting is even more important to make the trick more believable. But that's a very simple, basic card trick, which, by the way, fools people. People really enjoy it. I mean, I taught it on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. They loved it.
With that slide, do you go pull it out the thumb side of your hand, or do you pull it out the back side?
Oh, sorry, I should have made that more clear. I pull it out my thumb side. So if I pull the card back here like that,
yeah,
as I turn my wrist down, I'm pulling it out from the thumb side, so this side here, the thumb side.
That's right.
Like that. I can get, maybe let me get closer to the camera, like this. Oh, that's better.
There you go.
I'm pulling out like that.
Yeah.
But it looks like this. So you want to be careful of that angle, because if you turn too much, you can see the card hanging out the back. Just like that. And what's so cool is that they have the opportunity to change their mind with the count. Now, the reason why I said a little earlier, I said you don't have to shuffle the pack, and you don't. So you could start with the card on the bottom and just simply go into that counting move. The only thing is you don't get the opportunity to show the cards, because as soon as you show the cards, they know it's on the bottom. So I think the idea of having the card on top, remember having that card on top and then shuffling it and getting it to the bottom, makes the effect more baffling. So I think it's just, it adds more power to it, because it looks like A, you shuffled the cards, and B, they're all different. And then of course, by shuffling the cards, you've changed the order and somehow you've predicted the card. Yeah. So all those things working together make the effect far more baffling. But it does require practice. See, the thing is, now when you learn the trick, you kind of go, oh, cool, I'll just do it. But you need to practice it.
But it's actually really, really good timing, because each week in this program, we've had like a weekly challenge.
Yes.
And this week's challenge, which started today, is to learn a new skill.
Yes.
There you go. For the 109 people we've got on here.
Yes.
Watch the replay. I reckon that's a really good. It's something they've never done before. They had to choose. Do it for 10 minutes a day for 5 days and see where they're at on Friday.
Exactly. Now I'll touch on that with Nick. That's a really great point. That magic is all about practice and rehearsal. It very much is like a sport. You want to make the unnatural feel natural, and you do that through repetition. And for me, I'm a big advocate. Like, I'm about what I call saturation rehearsal. Like, I rehearse until everybody wants to just, everyone is just gone mad at me. But I rehearse and I rehearse and I rehearse and I practice and I practice and I practice, so that if something happens on stage it's not supposed to, or volunteers don't respond the way I want, it all feels second nature. I want to be able to not think about what I'm doing. So I need to practice so much that I can talk and do it at the same time. So it's about being ambidextrous. It's about, and once again, I can very much, this must be like playing sport. You want to be able to do it so naturally that it's effortless. And that requires practice.
Muscle memory, basically.
Muscle memory. That's what you need. You need it to feel like it's muscle memory. And that's what magic is really about. It's all about that practicing. As a little kid, just a little side note, as a little kid, I used to take a pack of cards. This is what we call mechanic grip. And I would hold them in my hand all day, every day. I'd fall asleep with a pack of cards in my hand. I'm sure people here fall asleep with a cricket ball in their hand. Just getting used, like just, constantly being around the item, literally becoming one with the pack of cards. Yeah. It's important.
Yeah, that's awesome. That, like I said at the start, and you hear similar stories of the best cricketers in the world, like Steve Smith, shadow bats in the shower. So the guys and the girls that end up like you are, being the best at their craft, do those things. They live and breathe it. It's not, go to training for 2 hours once or twice a week. It's do everything you possibly can to develop the craft, learn the skill, develop muscle memory.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to, and look, I don't want to make it sound obsessive to because some people may not want to do that. I understand that. But for me, in order to be able to take it to the level that I've taken it and beyond now, you have to be quite obsessed by it. And that unfortunately requires, but all fortunately, because I love it, requires that kind of level of discipline or involvement, which I think is a great thing. I think sports, magic, whatever it is, the arts, that type of discipline is important.
Rubs off, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, do you want me to teach you another trick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're happy to, for sure.
Yeah, of course. Remember I said in the beginning.
Is this this one?
Sorry, say it again, Nick.
It's a 20-cent piece.
Exactly. So I'll show you the trick first. So first I'll show you how to trick, what it's supposed to look like when the magician does it. And then I'll break it down again, take you step by step through the secret and the method. Now, this is actually originally called the French drop. This was the trick that I showed my father that fooled him. And now you've got to remember, the reason why he was fooled, he'd never seen magic before and he hadn't seen it off his son. So he was probably more taken back than anything. So I showed him a 20-cent coin, like so. And I grabbed the 20-cent coin like this. And then I wave it over my hand and it just
disappears.
That's it. So once again, really, really simple trick. But this is interesting because it looks really simple until you start actually trying to do it. And when you put the pieces together, it can be a little harder. But let me explain. It's called the French drop. You're holding the coin with your thumb of your right hand and the fingers of your right hand in this kind of weird position, like this. Yeah, perfect. Just like that. Now, the camera, you guys there, you're basically where your audience would be. So you show them the coin, and what you're going to do, by lifting your thumb, you're going to drop the coin into your right hand. Just lifting your thumb a little bit, the coin will drop. That's it. So that's the first thing you want to practice. You want to lift your thumb and let it drop. Now you notice my hand doesn't move that much. My thumb doesn't, for example, my thumb doesn't lift up really high, and my fingers don't catch. You don't get that effect. You want as little movement as possible. So if you watch me, my thumb lifts just a little bit and the fingers don't move very much at all. That's important. So that's the first thing you want to learn.
Or does it have to be in your palm?
No, it doesn't have to be in your palm. If I show you now the exposed view, can you see that? It will look like this, trying to do it and look at the same time. Mine has just fallen into my fingers. Okay, so that's important that you can just get that movement like that. Okay, now what's going to happen is you're going to pretend to grab the coin with your left hand as if you're grabbing it like this. So the coin is in your right hand like that. You pretend to grab it with your left hand, okay? But at the same time, you drop, make it nice and close, you drop the coin into your right hand. Okay, and the left hand pretends to take it. I'm going to do that all again. So the coin is in your right hand. It comes over. The thumb to the left hand goes behind. The fingers go in front, and I'm lifting my right thumb to drop the coin.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. It looks really easy until you start putting the pieces together. So from the front, it should look like I've taken the coin, okay? If you were to really do it, it would look like this. So what I'm doing now is I'm simulating, I'm really going to take the coin with my left hand. Look, I'm going to take the coin with my left hand, and that's what it looks like. So now I'm going to do the exact same move, but not take the coin. Okay? And this is what I do all day, every day. I pretend to take things that don't really exist. And the closer you can get that movement to the real
engagement ring reel, or
yeah. It's all an illusion. That's right. So now I'm really taking it, and now I'll do it again where I'm not taking it. Okay. So once you've got that action of taking the coin, you've got to do one more move. You've got to turn your hands over. So I'm pretending to take the coin. I'm dropping it into my right hand. At the same time, so there it is. At the same time, I'm turning my right hand over, holding the coin, turning my right hand over and closing my left hand with a point. So the audience thinks the coin is in the left hand. If I go back, I'm taking it, I'm moving over. The coin is actually here.
Oh, wow.
But I'm pretending it's in my left hand. I'm then going into my pocket, and you can grab a card. And as I'm going to grab the card, I'm dropping the coin over here and grabbing the card and using it to make the coin vanish. But I'm only using the card so I can ditch the coin. So you can use a card, you can use a pen, you can use anything that you want, as long as it's out of view. So for example, if the card was in my back pocket, I'll put it over here. So you're using that excuse to grab it with the coins here to get rid of the coin to bring out the card to make it look like it's vanished. So I'm going to back the whole thing up now one more time. So the coin is held in the right fingers, like so. The left hand comes in. It creates a shield in front of the coin because that's when you're going to drop it. I'll do this as an exposed view again. But when the hand's in front, you don't see the drop. Remember, the thumb from the left hand is behind. You pretend to grab the coin. Okay, you pretend to grab the coin as you turn your right hand over and close your left. That's it. Now you have the coin here. You move that hand across to your pocket or wherever it is, out of sight. Grab your playing card or whatever it might be. Wave, and the coin's gone.
Nice.
So that's the technique. Now, when it's done smooth, a couple of little tips, Nick, actually. What I see is people grab the coin and they turn their hand over and they have the left hand open and then close it. Yeah. You'll see that a lot because you're doing a lot of things at once. So you get this kind of, that was too quick. You'll get this kind of effect and then close.
Hard to, I don't know, it's like rubbing your tummy and patting your head. Like I found it hard to match up.
Exactly. So it looks really simple, and it is to some degree, but it just requires the right movements at the right time.
Stuff it up.
Now, there's little subtleties too. I'll just quickly add, there's another little subtlety, I don't want to complicate it, but there's another little subtlety where I kind of shake my left hand to make it look like
there's something in there.
Yeah, there's something in there when there's not. So all these little things help add to it, but just the main thing to remember is that you need to close the left hand and turn the right at the right time. As I said, because you see a lot of people leave the left hand open and then close. Of course, then it's an instant vanish. So coin is like this in the fingers, comes over, turn, drop, grab, gone. That requires repetition. And I think the best way to do it is to actually really grab it.
Practice what it feels like and looks like.
Practice exactly what it feels like, yeah. And that way you can then copy it to make the movement as natural as possible. Because in essence, holding a coin like this is not very natural. Yeah, so you do it, grab and turn and drop, that's it. So once you put the pieces together, that's it, yeah. And then you'll get the movement at the right time. So see how my right hand here, it turns over pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
So you haven't got this massive pause action here, as in the right hand is paused. So you get a nice smooth kind of
move quick.
Yeah, nice and quick. And you'll see me, I actually move my body quite a bit when I'm doing it. Because that gives you a better angle to see it this way. And then it gives me a better angle when I move forward like that. And another reason is by moving forward, you're bringing attention to what you want them to look at.
Yeah, yes. Making it look like there's something in there again.
Exactly, with a little bit of the shake. So that one's actually called the French drop. And so if you add a little pen or you add the card, if you've got a pack of cards, to use it to ditch the coin, then you end clean. In Magic, you want to try and end as clean as possible. And when you grab the card, you don't need to come out and show your hand empty, because the action of bringing the card out kind of shows that it's empty.
Yeah.
So there's, once again, little subtleties that make the effect stronger without you having to, say, look, my hand's empty as I hold a card. And those little things make the trick a little more baffling or interesting. But it requires practice. Simple, once again, but requires rehearsal.
Yeah, and I reckon get the actions right, and then you can start adding in those other little subtleties, like you said, the shape of the hand and whatnot too.
Yes, exactly. I don't want to complicate it too much for everybody, but I want to give a rounded view of why it looks the way it looks. But yes, you're right. Start simple. Start with just what it actually really feels like to take the coin, and then simulate or copy that, and then you'll be able to get the action down right. And look at yourself in a mirror. When you do it in a mirror, or watch yourself on the screen, film yourself doing it to see you can see what it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant.
There we go. Very simple. French drop. And the other one was called the glide. The card trick was called the glide. So really cool. And good tricks, that you can pretty much, once you practice, you can do anywhere.
Yeah, that'd be awesome at a party to rip out as a non-magician to be able to nail them.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, pop in the chat box. How did you go? Did you nail them? For those that did have their card and 20-cent piece. No. Okay. Terribly. Fail. I nailed it. Work in progress. Not really. All right. Nailed it. There's a few. So a bit of a mixed bag. The first one, yes. All right.
Well, this is the thing. It requires, that's the one thing about magic, to be honest. When you first start, you're probably not going to get it straight away. You actually need to practice it. And that's kind of the point. That's everything in life. Like you need to put the time in to make it work, even if it's a simple trick like that.
Yeah, you're not going to nail it in 10 minutes, are you?
No.
Guys, few people are asking if this recording's going to go up on YouTube. I'm just going to pop Coz's YouTube in the chat box, guys. Should be able to see that there. If you are interested in obviously learning more of what Coz does, that's probably the best place rather than watching our cricket recording of this. I think there's going to be a lot more information on there for you.
There is. Every week we put up a new teacher trick. So we teach and we give different angles so you can see from my perspective, the magician's perspective, and we do slow-mos and stuff to help when tricks get complicated with shuffles and things like that. But there's a variety of different tricks, really easy ones, more difficult ones that require more presentation, ones that require more dexterity, and different tricks require different skills.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, we might get into a bit of Q&A.
Of course.
I
love the Q&A.
So I'll get the chat box up. So if you do have any questions, guys, put the Q&A box, not the chat box now. So I've got one here from Thomas and Charlotte. They've asked, what was the first magic book that you read that you were speaking about?
What was the first magic trick I ever learned?
The first book that you read that you were talking about, it was a Houdini. Was it a Houdini book?
Yeah, so it was called the Encyclopedia of Magic. And it was a book that had these beautiful pictures, as I said, about these famous magicians and stories about these magicians. And in the back of the book, it had the magic tricks. And so it was called the Encyclopedia of Magic. And I used to go to my local library. If kids know what a library still is now, because of the internet. But yeah, I used to go to the library. And that's how I learnt magic. I learnt magic by reading books.
Yeah, awesome. Abhinav asked, how do you know that the card that you chose was on the top and when you shuffle it goes to the bottom? I think Coz went through that. Do you want to be...
Yeah, I'll go through it again. So let's say you want the 4 of diamonds. I'll use an indifferent card so they look different so you can keep track. So I've placed it on top. Now, automatically when you do the shuffle, that top card slides down into your left hand straight away. So if I get rid of the card, it's the same thing. That's the first card, then the second, then the third. It works out that way. So if the card is on top, you know that it's going to be the first card down. Now, I'm diving a little deeper. I think the question really is, how do I know when it's not indifferent that it's the right card? Because I need to be able to feel that it's just one card. And that goes back to what we were talking about, Nick, about holding a pack of cards. What do they feel like? How thick are they? All that's kind of tactile. That as a magician, I could tell you how many cards I've slid off straight away. I could tell you how many cards I can lift in one hand with my little pinky. But this is getting a bit more advanced now. But I know just by feel that that's one card. Yeah. And so it's pretty easy to be able to slide one card off and know that it's the right card. As long as you're not grabbing chunks. Yeah. So one quick slide. That's how I know. And then I know it's down to the bottom.
Yeah, love it. Noah's asked, have you played cricket before?
I did. I actually went to a school that loved cricket. I went to Wesley College and I did play cricket, but I will be honest, I was terrible at playing cricket. I just made the bats and balls disappear instead. Once I realized that I can't play cricket, but I can do magic instead.
Seeing cricket after that. No, all good. Hunter asked, have you got any more tricks you can teach us? Yes, he does, Hunter. I've popped his YouTube channel in the chat box, so go and visit that.
Oh, nice.
Lachlan, what was your biggest attendance to one of your shows?
In the theatre show, so we do theatre shows all around the country, and they usually, I don't know, there's 2,500 seats, but the biggest, okay, yeah, the Melbourne Grand Prix, there was like 6,000 people at the Melbourne GP for an outdoor event. So yeah, not huge. Magic's really hard to do because it's a visual art form. It's kind of hard to do it on a 10,000 scale. You got to have lots of screens. You need screens even with 2,500 people. So not huge crowds.
And it probably takes away. It's very similar to theatre, I imagine, where they do keep it close because if you get far away, you feel that a little bit disconnected. You need to be up close and personal to get the full effect, I reckon.
100% right. That gives you the right ambience, the right vibe. Yeah, exactly, to the show.
Someone anonymous has said, "What's your favourite trick?"
Oh, my favorite trick. Anything that requires, once again, learning a new skill. So, for example, you go, well, what does that mean? So when I did underwater escapes, I had to learn to hold my breath. That I had to learn how to basically holding your breath. Before you hold your breath is basically you go through a state of meditation to lower your heart rate, to get rid of all the carbon dioxide in your bloodstream. So learning a new skill like that, to hold my breath, or learning how, hanging upside down, or like a big fall. I had to learn how to fall into big airbags when I was doing like a 10-story fall. Learning new skills. So anything that requires a new skill set is always a lot of fun for me. So that is probably when I do a new TV show or a new TV special where I have to do a big death-defying something. I learn a new skill. And therefore, to answer the question properly, it's always the newest thing, I guess.
Like to be challenged.
Exactly.
Ramina's asked, how many tricks have you done? Do you know how many different tricks you've got up your sleeve or you've done previously? No idea. Wouldn't imagine you'd keep track on everything you do.
No. We've done literally hundreds of tricks, and some are great and some aren't so great. And no, I couldn't even, I don't know.
Brooke has asked, with the first trick, what do you do? So say if you're with a little group and you show them a trick and they want to shuffle the cards.
Good question.
Line to that.
Very good question. So remember how I said I had a prediction written down? I would start with a prediction. If they want to first off, that's called audience management. So as a magician, the sense of confidence that you have, when I walk into the room and I'm doing the card trick, I have control of the cards. Now, I get it. I know what you're saying. Someone might say, no, well, before you start, give me the cards. That would never happen to me because of the way I would approach the table or the situation. But with that being said, I understand. I would give them the cards to shuffle. Then I would take the cards back and I would take a glimpse. So I'd shuffle the cards. I'd take them back and I would take a little glimpse of what the top card is. Here, it happens to be the Queen of Clubs. So they shuffle them. They take the top card. You get a glimpse of the top card, the Queen of Clubs. I would then shuffle them again and say, okay, so you really shuffled them well. So now the Queen is on the bottom. I would then perform the glide move with any number. And instead of doing the prediction, give them the card and then pretend to read their mind. Yeah. So let them shuffle the deck.
There you go. Awesome, Brooke. Daniel, has a trick ever gone wrong? And if so, what happened?
Yeah, tricks go wrong all the time. So you need a plan B. Like we just got asked, what happens if someone wants to shuffle them? That could really stump you. The water tank, I've been pulled out a couple of times. What happened in the water tank, I got pulled out live on stage, and the show we had to stop the show and I had to redo the actual tank. And you think it looks like a huge mistake, a huge stuff up, but in essence, it made the audience realize how dangerous it really was. So I redid it again, and the audience erupted because they were like, "Oh my God, it's actually really quite scary." So escapes do go wrong. I mean, when things go wrong, I've been slashed by a knife on my chin. I've broken ribs. I've got stitches in my forehead. Literally, it goes wrong and you get rushed off or something happens. It's like in a sporting match. When things go wrong, sometimes you've got to leave the field. And that's just what it is in terms of the danger. If a magic trick goes wrong, there's always a plan B. And there's always a plan C. And because the audience has no idea what's supposed to happen, In other words, they don't know the script. You need to be able to change direction and adapt to a situation. And that's why practice and rehearsal is so important. So you can then, if something goes wrong, think on your feet.
Yeah, yeah. Do you kind of have your plan Bs and Cs in the back of your mind ready?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. You plan for it not to go wrong, but when it does, you move to phase, the second phase or the third phase.
Yeah. Aussie has asked, when you're in South Africa for Celebrity Get Me Out of Here, how many tricks did you do on the show? And do you want to give us a quick rundown on what that was like, actually being in that?
Yeah, so I'm a Celebrity Get Me Out of Here. So South Africa, I don't know. I haven't watched the show because I don't know. I don't really want to watch myself back on that show. But anyway, so after seeing, I don't know how many tricks actually aired. I think I did a lot of tricks. Like every second night, I was doing a trick, a card trick, or whatever it might be. So I think maybe I was there for 21 days. So yeah, literally 10, 11 tricks were performed, if not more, to be honest. If that answers the question. And Celebrity was really tough. I mean, it is a TV show, but people think we then leave the camp and maybe go and sleep in a hotel. You're really sleeping in the dirt. You've got to collect your water. You've got to collect your firewood. There's cold showers. You only eat 800 calories a day. Imagine being in a room with people that you don't know for 21 days where no one's really showered and you're all starving to death, and there'd be some people that can get on your nerves. So it's a very intense situation. And then and lots of drama happens. But for me, it was a great experience, but it's wasn't an easy experience. Lack of food and lack of sleep and no comforts. So no tea, no coffee, nothing at all. No sugar.
I remember you saying the cast or the crew used to have, these elaborate meals which you guys could smell about 100 meters away over the fence.
Yeah, because even though we were in the South African jungle, they had to set up their own camp. And so you could smell the barbecue cooking. And when the wind would blow in the right direction, you'd be smelling the barbecue and you'd be like, oh my gosh. So, even a bit of a tease going on. But it was like everything, it's a mental game that you have to realize that I'm only there for a month and, I'm not going to die and life will go back to normal afterwards. So you push through the pain and, that's what that was the experience. It was a mental game.
Just on the mental game, cause there's a good one from here from Toby. When you do your show, how do you keep your nerve? I imagine that's very similar to sport and cricket when the kids go out and play. Do you have any processes or routines that you use to help keep yourself focused?
Yeah, 100%. So before every show, I visualize exactly, and this is a 2-hour show, even if it's a 10-minute show, I visualize the way I want to see the show going. Exactly how I'm going to walk out, how I'm going to present it, how each trick is going to go, how I'm even going to hear the audience response. This is before I go out, and I replay the speech, or what we call in magic, the patter, over and over again. Like opening speech, a second speech into my trick, everything that I'm going to do, every move I replay it all. Because remember, this is all rehearsed. Nothing's left to chance.
Whole 2-hour show rehearsal in your head.
Yep, it's all in my head. Every line I say, don't get me wrong, there's impromptu moments, but every line I'm going to say, I know. All the cards are different. You could have it's all known. So every trick that I go through in the show, I'm re-rehearsing it. I'm playing it back out before I do the performance. But this happens as I'm getting ready as well. So I'm getting ready for the show. I'm putting on my costume, whatever it is, and I'm playing the show over and over again in my head and visualizing how I want it to see. Especially when it's a brand new show, even the night before, I'll close my eyes and I'll play the whole show through in my head and how I want it to go. That's important because of what you said earlier, Nick, about muscle memory and how everything needs to fall into place. In terms of nerves, I always get nervous. It doesn't matter if there's 2,500 people, 250 people, or 25 people. I will always be nervous.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those performers that doesn't get nervous. I've learned to deal with the nerves so that my hands aren't trembling or shaking, but I'm always nervous. It's a good nervousness because I care. Now, how I overcome the nervousness is I basically do what I learned when I'm doing an underwater escape. I breathe through it, nice deep breaths, you know, in and out, and really try and relax as much as possible when I'm doing the visualization as well. Now, the closer it gets to showtime, the more nervous I get. But that breathing exercise really, really helps me to, I guess, relax. And it happens every single show. And I've learned to just, I'm used to it, and I've learned to just deal with it.
Yeah, I like what you said there, because a lot of kids, you know, obviously get nervous before they go and play sport. And we always say to them, it's okay to be nervous. Like, everyone gets nervous to some extent. If you didn't, it means you don't really care about your performance in the game you're playing. So it's just about coming up with a process and tools and techniques that help you deal with those nerves. And it's interesting that you said breathing and visualization as well, because they're, you know, really common amongst high-performing cricketers as well.
Yeah, you need to calm your nerves. If you focus on your actual breathing, and this is a whole other technique, but lowering your heart rate and just relaxing and being present in that moment, you'll be, by being present, you're not focusing, you're focusing just on the breath. And by doing that, your mind gets taken away from the actual, or what if this goes wrong? What if that happens? And that's another quick point I'll quickly touch on. When I do an underwater escape, I mean, it is really dangerous. I mean, people can hold their breath for 45 seconds, at least a minute. But the moment you lock somebody inside something and they can't get out, it plays on your mind. So I convince myself that I'm not going to drown. I know that I've practiced. I know that I've rehearsed. So I now can't worry about, oh, what if it goes wrong? Or, oh, what's going to happen if they've got to pull me out? Now I just focus on my breathing. Now you're thinking to yourself, hang on, when you're underwater, you can't breathe. So what do you focus on? I can't see the locks. I can't feel the locks, but I'm actually listening to my heart, and I'm trying to slow it down. And it's really interesting because in a stage show, there's lights and cameras and cheering and but when I'm in the tank, it's really silent and soft.
Yeah.
And you go internal. And that's the best moment, when you can be internal. And that feeling I have in a water tank is what I try and take before I step on stage. Just internal, focused on my breathing and my heart rate.
Yeah, awesome. Love it, mate. Well, we don't want to keep you too long. We might wrap it up with, there's been quite a few questions just about your hardest trick and your favourite trick to do. I'm guessing the water escape. Is that the hardest, or have you got a harder one?
Yeah, the water is the hardest, because it takes, even now, if you said to me right now, Nick, can we go and do the water tank escape? I'd say, oh, I actually can't, because I haven't rehearsed enough. I'm not fit enough for it. So it takes me a couple of months to prep for that escape. Plus, it is genuinely dangerous. Even if people are skeptical and they say, oh, I'd have locked this, I'd have changed that. Even if you don't believe any of that, which they are, but even if you, because people examine them, but even if you don't believe that, I'm locked in a tank with a lid on top, and I'm holding my breath in full view in a glass tank. Many, many, many things can go wrong. So to prep for that, I've got to rehearse, I've got to practice, I've got to get fit. I've got to mentally prepare for it. So any water escape, and I've done many variations, is the most difficult for me, physically and mentally, to get prepped for. So that's the hardest trick.
Yep. And favourite? Or didn't you? Yeah, anything that's new and challenging.
Yeah, anything that's new and challenging, and it changes so much, because, you know, it's something, if I'm working on something new and then it gets a great response, I think, oh, that's my favorite now because it's new. So it changes so much. But anything that really makes the audience gasp, like, is my favorite.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, mate, thanks a lot for that. That was
Pleasure.
That was absolutely awesome to learn some tricks, but also get a bit of an insight into what it takes to prepare and train and things like that. And I think there's some really applicable lessons for cricketers as well. So all the best when you get back out on the road. Enjoy your online stuff for the moment.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Thank you for staying on, guys, and appreciate your time. Practice the tricks. Have lots of fun doing it. Don't be discouraged if it's too hard or too easy, because, you know, nothing too easy can ever, you got to keep practicing to make it look perfect. And really appreciate you guys having me. Thank you very much.
No problem, mate. See you later.